All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio. We're super excited to be here with you tonight and or this morning or whatever time of the day it is you're listening. We record at night, so that's why I said that. Anyways,
I feel like the Truman Show.
Right.
Good morning, good and if I don't see you, good afternoon, and good night.
And good night.
And good night.
And good night.
Well, either way, welcome to the podcast. We're super excited to be able to share some things with you today. We got a really exciting podcast today. We're excited to share with you how to prepare your kit. What kind of kit? We're going to get into all the kits. Try to talk about as many different types of kits as we can. And so we're going to talk about kids' kits, mom's kits, dad's kits, bug out bags, bug in bags, first aid kits, car kits, whatever it is. So want to just first bring him, do some announcements really fast. Make sure April 22nd and 23rd that you're near or in Sandy, Utah for the Mountain America Expo, Be Prepared Expo. Pardon me, it's the Mountain America Expo Center. And it's the Be Prepared Expo for 2022. We're going to be there. We're going to have a booth. We'd love to see you, meet you, shake your hand, give you a hug, whatever it is. Come by and say hi, and we'd love to hear from you. Also, go to our website, peppertalkradio.com, and there's a tab at the top that says resources. And that resources, you put your email in there, and then you can download a bunch of free stuff. And most of the information we're going to be talking today on this podcast about is in those free kit lists. So if you want to follow along, make sure that you're in that preppertalkradio.com and resources, downloads, and you're ready to go with us. So join our socials. We've had a lot of people join our Facebook group, and we're really looking forward to having more people. We've got a lot of great conversations going in there, people asking some really good questions. So super excited to share all that stuff with you guys. So here we are, another day, another fantastic day in the life of a prepper. How you guys feeling?
Really good. Had a long day today. I was up at 4:30, drove about 400 miles. No, more than that, 400 plus.
You're lucky.
So I'm
That's
good.
horrible. I bet you took your road kit with you, at least that, and your car kit, your extra road kit, your get home bag.
Get home bag. Absolutely. I mean, yeah.
Your extra tools.
I would actually be a little embarrassed to tell you how much stuff I took with me. But, I got a big truck. I got the whole bed. I got a tonneau cover. I got the back seat. Just load it up. That's the way I think, right? I mean, I've got all this space. Why not? And I think about all these people with empty trunks, right? Okay, yes, you add a little weight, you're going to lose some gas mileage, right? Who cares?
Negligible.
Very little price compared to what it can save you. And I did a little post the other day on Prepper Talk Radio, just a spare tire, right? Because it came across a young lady who she drove into this parking lot off the freeway and slow speed, her tire is obviously torn up, and we get over to help her and look in her truck. No spare tire, no jack, no nothing, So she had purchased a used car and never checked for the spare or any of the tools. So she was, up a creek and with me in my truck, I have a tall bottle jack, won't fit under the car. It's just not going to work. So then, she had to call her expensive tow and expensive tire and all this stuff. So be prepared. I want to say it's easy to do. It's easy for me to do, it's second nature, right?
It's simple, not always easy.
Simple.
So
yes.
Funny story, when I bought you remember my Dodge Ram, my big diesel.
Yep.
When I bought that, I couldn't find the jack for it. I'm like, this is stupid. This truck doesn't have a jack. And it was lifted. So I bought this big old jack, put it in there. And I don't know how I found it, but my buddy John, I was giving him, we were driving around up in the mountains of Idaho, and he's hopping out and he goes, man, I love these trucks. Like, they're so clever. They have the jack under the front seat. And I'm like, what? Under the front seat? And I'm like,
no wonder I couldn't find it.
Like a dummy, I didn't have a book for it when I bought it because it was used. But like a dummy, I didn't go get one. And I always have one for my cars. And so I'm looking and I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, I used to have one of these. And I'm like, show me. And we pull this all. I'm like, it's a bottle jack with a big arm. And
So what you're saying is
it was everything I needed. Yeah.
Practice.
When you get a new car, go through and check everything, double check to see if you have it, download the manual online if you have to start, get what you need.
Get familiar with it.
Because if you're not familiar with it, you can't expect anyone else to be when you're in a disaster situation.
Well, I think that
Like,
fits perfectly with the prepper mantra. One is none and two is one. So you have two jacks. So you
Yeah,
have one jack.
and
And now you're jacked.
I was super jacked with my other one. It was
What?
my big one. Oh, but yeah, that's the hard lessons to learn, right? When you're not prepared for something, or when you don't pay attention to something, those are the hardest lessons to learn. If you are prepared for something, what's funny is you don't remember those experiences as much because there was no stress or trauma because you were prepared.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I try to
Here's
not.
back.
I was
I was
going to
gonna
say,
say-
if
Go
I
ahead,
drive
Barry, sorry.
anywhere, if I drive anywhere where I'm, we're going to talk all over each other today. If I
Oh, yeah.
drive anywhere that I can't walk home in an hour or two, I take my pack, I get my bag, and I make sure that I have some tools and some things that I need to get home. Cause I don't know, I want to make sure I have better shoes. We're going to talk a little bit more about what's good, what to go in those things, but those are definitely some mental things that I don't care how much gas mileage it may end up costing me to have a little bit of extra stuff in there to be ready, but it's so worth it. So that's what I do.
What I was going to say is that, what kits are, is it's just really just organization, right? Just planning. It's, we can call it prepping, right? But it's something I guarantee your wife does every day, when she takes the kids with her, right? She's, like you say, all the time, Scott, the mom is the first prepper with her diaper bag, right? And so it's really no different. Like say, Paris, I'm the same way. When my kids are going out, they're going, some of them drive, I say, okay, be ready, be prepared. Or if we go on a long trip, be prepared to walk home. They think I'm ridiculous, but I'm like, seriously, have the right shoes, have the right things with you, that if we have to walk back home, maybe it might be a couple 100 miles. So we got to prepare accordingly. So
we've had that discussion a number of times back when we were on air. Like, you'd bust my chops because I've got flip-flops on.
Yes, I would.
What are you doing? And I'm all, I try to walk around barefoot as much as possible, just to train my feet. But I always have a pair of shoes in the car, just no matter what. Like, sometimes I'm wearing boots, but sometimes I'm wearing flip-flops, and sometimes I'm wearing some sketchy shoes, just depends. But I've always got an extra pair in the car because, I'm not going to walk home in flip-flops if it's greater than a half-hour walk. Like, that's why I bring socks and shoes. Like, that's why kids have things in them.
And that's something I learned from you, Scott, is that I also read a book called Born to Run, right? Which is, it's a great book, especially, even from the survival standpoint, is we're meant to walk, we're meant to run. Our bodies are made for that, but you got to train it. Like you're saying, walk around without your shoes on, toughen up your feet, toughen up those muscles. You got all those muscles have to be trained. And, I tried to do a 50 miler, couldn't do it, just walking, I couldn't do it. My feet locked up and I couldn't do it. So it's a lot more, there's a lot more preparation into getting home, with that get home bag. And that taught me a lot as well. Like, okay, I need to prepare for more than, I was thinking, I can be home in 24 hours. If I'm 50 miles away, I can be home in 24 hours. Nope, can't do it. So I got to plan for more time, which means I need more supplies. I need more food and more water, shelter and so forth. So
and you don't learn those things until you actually have an experience or you go through that and you practice.
Exactly.
And that's part of the reason why we're going to talk about some things to get, put into the kit. We're going to talk about gear in a little bit tonight, but the reality is that if you don't know how to use that gear, you might have the best first aid kit in the world, but if you don't have a clue how to use it, it doesn't do you any good. And same with any of the other kits we're going to talk about. So it's important that when you do get a kit, whatever kit you end up doing, whatever list you download, or if you take a bunch of lists and kind of figure out what you want to do, make sure that you're practicing with those tools, with those items, so that you know how to use them when the time comes, and already ahead of time. And so, I feel like there, going back to being barefoot, there's some health benefits to being barefoot, grounding and things like that. It's really, really powerful stuff. But we're going to jump into the kits now. What do you guys want to start with? You guys want to start with a bug in, bug out? You want to start with cars?
Yeah, I think a general purpose, like Scott says, 96-hour type kit, which is what most people are familiar with. They'll go buy the 72-hour kit off the shelf, right? Which we don't encourage. We say, build your own, go for 96 hours, use quality components, which we can talk, in detail about a lot of those things that I put in mine, that you guys have put in yours, that are not just the one-time use, type of equipment.
Exactly. I think that's why, like, if you go to the resources page of the website, preppertalkradio.com/resources, we've got all these downloadables in that section, but like, it's also got links to books. And books are great because it gives you education. And if you know how to do something, you need less tools, right? The more skilled you get and more knowledgeable you get, the less things you might need. Like if you look at like a wilderness survival expert, one might be able to go out into the woods with a pair of wool socks and a pocket knife and be happy. Another one could run out naked and dominate the world, right? And then there's us that's like, I need a backpack and I need a water purification. Like we get a little carried away sometimes because we're so used to all the conveniences and the modern items of life, right? We forget about the skills and things like that. So our first list that we created is really the most basic, dumbed down 96-hour checklist you can do. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say that kind of along those lines is that the more of a beginner you are in this preparing your kits, the more stuff you'll have. The more advanced you are in your preparedness and your readiness, I think the smaller the kit you'll have. So this is kind of a good starter. What we're going to talk about is for somebody who's kind of just more starting out, getting prepared, getting ready. And then you can, pick and choose and whittle it down from there once you get a little more skill sets.
Well, and also adding more. Like the other part of it is like when you have different skill sets, you'll add things that you can use. Like, for example, if you're really awesome with first aid, you'll probably have a much more robust, trauma kit and first aid kit, because you're going to be the guy that pulls over, the lady that pulls over to help with an accident before the first responders can get there. Yep. Right. Or, if you have a truck and you've got space for tools, you might carry an extra shovel or a pickaxe. Like you might carry a bunch of different other things, rope, rigging. Like my brother always carried 2 to 3 sets of rigging tools.
Well, he's like the rigging master.
And he's like legit one of the best guys I've ever met when it comes to rigging ropes, rescue. Like he's a firefighter, but he's also an emergency response technician / what do you call those guys? The ones that go out, search and rescue, right? Yeah. Oh, nice. But he also would build professionally. He would build rigging systems with cables across canyons, and people would rope swing like 400 feet off the pivot point. Like, yeah, he's even gone spelunking. I can't tell you whose ranch it was, but they went spelunking and he was taking family members down into this place that no one's been for hundreds of years. And I wish I could see the pictures, but he's under an NDA. He's not allowed to disclose that stuff. So it's like, whoa, like he's my ropes guy and rigging guy. Like, and he always had extra stuff. Why? Because he could use it. It was stuff he could use. Like he'd be on his way somewhere and all of a sudden get a call. Hey, so-and-so, if anyone's in this area, we need to go help with a rescue of this type of situation. Someone's car is upside down in the creek over here. Let's go help. And he's like, oh, I'm 5 minutes away. And he doesn't have to go home and get anything. It's just always in his car.
He's got enough knowledge and experience to know exactly what he needs for those activities. Yeah.
And so each of us has different skill sets. Like, okay, if we've got something and we're capable to do it, and maybe we've got the space, that's something we could consider adding.
Yeah.
Like I always have 2 to 3 first aid kits in my car, basic, trauma, and advanced trauma. Like that's just how I've been for years. Even though I don't know how to use everything in there, I know how to use most of it. And I'd rather have it than not, and it's not hurting my space in the vehicle.
Yeah. So for a basic, call it 72 hour, 96-hour kit, where would you start, Scott?
Well, ideally, we'd kind of go through the emergency rule of 3, but I would take a step back and say, okay, it's an emergency kit. First things first. What are the most likely scenarios that I'm going to face in most emergencies? It's either going to be a car accident, a tire gone flat, the car breaking down, maybe debit cards not working. So I try to think of those things first. And so like having extra ID, having extra medications, having extra, documentation and cash, right? Cash on hand, so that if you need to be able to use something, you've got it. Because those are the most common things that I come across personally. Yeah, so then I look at my survival rules of like, I need my water, or I need my first aid, my shelter, my water, my food. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's kind of where a 72-hour, those off the shelf 72-hour kits start, right? They start with your shelter, your water, your food, right? Those are kind of the basics. But they obviously do it very poorly, and they don't do it for long enough. So that's where, I start with it. Obviously, first pick the bag, right? The bag that's going to work for you. And that's going to take a little bit of practice and learning to figure out where to start. And so, what you typically get in a 72-hour kit is a pretty cheap, flimsy backpack, right? So my first word of advice is, let's pick a quality backpack, maybe something you already used for day hiking, or maybe a multiple day, but a smaller pack that's going to hold up to, hiking. Just imagine your backpack. Imagine you're going for an extended overnight hike, but taking fewer things. So start with that backpack is where I would start.
I agree with that, Shane. When I first started building my kits for my family, I have 5 kids, and I was building my kits, and I thought, I have old backpacks that they use for school. And I also had some like nice cloth carrying bags, like that weren't backpacks, but they were carrying bags. And I thought, I've got to start. I mean, it's better to have something than nothing. And if I had a fire or an earthquake in my house, what can I grab and go? And I had a backpack that I bought. So because I'm the dad, I figured the head of the family needs to have first things first. And that's another way to start too. If you have a family, start with yourself first as the head of the family, or if you're the spouse, or if you're the wife, you're also the head of the family. Husband and wife together are both heads of the family. So the man might carry some things in his pack, and a woman will carry something different in her pack. And we'll get into that in a minute. But I didn't even have backpacks, really. I didn't feel good backpacks for my kids. So I just put it in a bag, and they could just grab the bag and go in their hand, and at least run outside and at least get to our safe spot that we determined if the house was to have a fire, a burglar, or some kind of earthquake. So those are the things that, along with what Scott was saying, that I said, if I can't buy a backpack for them, let me use what I have. And it was just, even if it's a grocery sack, for goodness sakes, put stuff in it, make it easily accessible, and so that kids can grab and go.
Agreed. And that's where like most people will start. And sometimes it's like they'll make the mistake of starting with bags that they have no idea what the bag's about, or they'll buy a bag with stuff, or they'll just go grab a bag and it might not be big enough, or maybe way too big, or maybe heavy. So you've kind of, like what Shane said, you've got to understand. And the more you do this, the more you'll understand what makes the most sense to you based on the scenarios. Like there you go. Look at the screen for those of you guys watching the screen to see what Shane's holding up. I've got a little small go bag as well.
Yeah. So what I wanted to kind of show with this bag is, this is it's the FDE, or Field Dark Earth, the tan colored kind of military looking bag, right? And my advice is, you don't need to spend a lot of money on a bag. You can get some pretty inexpensive but decent bags on Amazon, or like Paris is saying, I've got plenty of old school backpacks hanging around, and that's what we started with. They're like, okay, they're a little tattered, they don't want to take them to school. Hey, that's your 72-hour kit. That's our beginnings right there. Just use those. And and I prefer especially for my kids, I don't want to give them a tactical looking backpack, because or even myself, the idea is gray man. The idea for me anyways is to not stand out and not be a target, right? Whereas if I look all military, decked out in all the gear, then I'm gonna stand out, and I don't want to stand out. I want to blend in. So there's
ratty backpacks. People look at that and go and move on. Right,
but so it could be full of $1,000 worth of gear. Yeah.
The more used your bag, that's why I love you get some bags, you try them out. Like if you've been camping a lot and you're a day hiker, that's one of the best bags to use, because it's used. It's experienced. You know how to pack it, you know what to do with it. And so that's a great place to start, especially like a day hiker bag, like a 3-day bag. Perfect. It's bigger than just a standard backpack. Like as an adult, that makes the most sense. It's also got a waist strap. Why is that so important? Because you're probably going to have a little extra weight as the adult, because you're trying to help carry stuff for the kids and everything else.
And we're assuming that, with a backpack, you're going to have to go on foot. I mean, that's kind of the assumption of having a backpack, and that could be the case in some instances. I think in most cases, most emergencies, you got your vehicle, right? So it, like Paris says, I've got a little duffel bag. We're going to use the duffel bag because it's going to go from there right to the car. I think ideally a backpack is best because it gives you the most most usable. If you need to go on foot, throw it on, and you got your hands free, right? But you can throw it in the car, you know, and you know, I stage a lot of stuff, you know. I've got, and I also have the aversion of, you know, and I think a lot of people do have the aversion of spending a lot of money on something that's going to sit there and not get used, right? And so spending a lot of money on a backpack, which could very well be the most expensive component of your kit, is a quality bag. No need to go to that expense and then say, I got $60-100 sitting there. It's not doing anything, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of
I actually met a lady at PrepperCon the first year, and she's like, I won't get a backpack. I'll never get a backpack. And I'm like, so what are you going to use? And she goes, oh, I have my cart. And I'm like, hand cart? Like, what,
like a dolly.
This is, I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's got this little basket with these big wheels on it that she pulls everywhere. She's like, I use this for school. I use this for work. She's a teacher, and she's like, I use this all the time. I've got another one that has all my prep stuff in it. She's like, I can't carry a backpack. And I'm like, brilliant. Like, find what works for you. So if a backpack's not the right fit, find what works for you. Like, because she rolls it to her car and then plops it in the car. So find the packaging that's going to work best for you, but like, make sure you're putting the right stuff into your kit based on where you feel you're going to be, what you need to do. Like your 96-hour basic checklist, it's going to have some redundancies, but it's going to have the basics to get you through 4 days. And that's the same basic kit that you're going to need for shelter in place as you are for, I need to evacuate my location. You know, most cases, if you're evacuating, it's because there's a local fire, there's a severe storm, something's going on. Like one of my friends online, he lives in Africa. His cousin's neighborhood just had a huge flood in Africa, and their house washed away completely. And now there's like an 80-foot hole in the hillside where that house was. So we need to take that into consideration. Say, okay, I need to be able to get what I need and move out if there's a situation like that. They had plenty of time to get out because the flood was going on for like 8 hours before the house was washed away. And the water was coming right through the middle of the house. They had all the doors open. They're like, we better get out of here. And so thinking about those situations, thinking about what's the right thing to do, find what works for you, get the basics in there, right? On our checklist, it goes through things like passports, IDs, birth certificates, you know, Scott, then you can get like,
on that, on knowing where you are in terms of in the city, like when that house was built, did they ever think they were in a flood zone? Probably not.
No,
so
they were on a hillside.
You go to your website, go to the city where you live. Usually this is available, the city's website wherever you live, go to the city website and look at the zoning and see where you are. If you're in a flood zone, you need to know that. If you're in a fire zone, you need to know that. That's just another resource to be able to help you understand where you are and what might be happening to your particular house, because the neighborhood over may not be in the flood zone. And so they don't have to worry as much about flooding as a disaster as you do. So, all right, go ahead.
Perfect. Well, the rest of it was just like, then it gets into like the fun, not the as emergency focused documents as possible, but like it gets into things like your marriage license, your important documents, your family history, your user IDs and passwords, emergency phone numbers. Like we give you the full list so you can look and decide what makes the most sense for you. But then we look at like shelter, you know, and Shane is probably the master of understanding what is a shelter. But it's like your coat, your jacket, your poncho, those are all shelters. Absolutely. Like tarp, cordage, because you can tie stuff together. You know, duct tape counts towards shelter. Zip ties counts towards shelter because you can fasten things. But a change of clothes is a shelter. So if your house is a shelter, that's one. Your car's also a shelter.
Absolutely.
That's two.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you guys were saying, plan accordingly for what those emergencies might be. In my neck of the woods, you know, I live right on the fault line here, and which is really the best place to live in an earthquake. But essentially, that's going to be our biggest reason we would need to leave our house. You know, otherwise the plan is to bug in until the bug out location is done. So, you know, we can talk about bug out bags, and we should do a whole different podcast about bugging out. But essentially, yeah, shelter's number one. Obviously, survival rules of 3 hours without shelter. So typically what you see in a traditional 72-hour kit is a survival blanket, which are great. You know, I think you should still have those, but you'll see something like a tube tent, something very flimsy that's not going to really hold up to anything. So you need to choose your shelter wisely. And in my opinion, a good quality jacket, preferably a waterproof Gore-Tex type jacket, rain poncho, something like that can provide for your shelter. You don't have to have a tent, especially for, you can make it for 3-4 days without a tent. As long as you have protection from the rain, just stay dry, stay out of the wind, stay warm. So that's my shelter, is a good Gore-Tex jacket, along with maybe a small tarp or a emergency blanket to provide some type of a wind barrier, or there's multiple uses for survival blankets. So that's where I would start for shelter.
And typically,
Agreed.
I would say, I think you guys will agree to this, is that if you're going to get a blanket, make sure it's got wool or a lot of wool in it, because wool keeps the warmth even when it gets wet. So if you have a blanket that's, if you're in a situation where you might get wet, you want to have a wool blanket, because that's going to still, significant amount of the heat stays with a wool blanket, where other blankets wouldn't, and you'd be freezing your butt off. If
Wool or synthetic. Yeah, absolutely. Wool can be heavy, especially for a bag, and bulky. And that's where I prefer layers of clothes rather to blankets. But that's, one thing we did to practice with the kids is, okay, here's your old school backpack. We're going to put together your 72-hour kit. Go get what you think you want for some, for 3 days, 4 days, and have them pack it up and see what they put in there, right? And
180 pounds of
animals,
blankets and everything. Yeah.
Stuffed animals, blankets, and it's full in 2 seconds, right?
Stuffed
and
animals.
So us as parents, we're going to carry the important things: the water filter, right? The majority of the food, those types of things, and let them carry the things that help them feel more secure, and that have some normalcy in an emergency, some games or whatever it might be, right?
We'll get into that list too, like specific. So if you're listening, like, don't worry, we're going to actually cover that in more detail a little bit further down. But make sure what you're carrying for each person is person specific. So as we go through this list, it's just the basic. Like the kid kit's going to be, you're not going to saddle your kid, especially if they're 5 years old or 2 years old, with like an extra 10 pounds of, trauma first aid kit stuff, right?
Yeah.
Here's 100 feet of rope for rappelling and 2 harnesses. But Dad, I can't walk. Suck it up,
And a stove.
Right.
And that's where I, again, look at your emergency and how you're going to evacuate. And for us, obviously I've got, 4 kids at home still, and we're going to get in the car. So we have things staged for quick access. The multiple kits that I have, we have food staged, that's freeze dried, that we can grab a bin and go within a few minutes, we can be loaded up and out of there. So I think to believe that all you need is a 72-hour kit, or just a bag to grab and run out, that may be the case. Maybe you live on the edge of a volcano and it's going to explode and you've got to get out within 30 seconds, right? So prepare accordingly. Whereas if I think we would have plenty of time. If there were a fire, if there's an earthquake, we have very little or no notice, right? And so that kind of, that really limits you to even being able to grab a 72-hour kit possibly as well. So, but I think in most cases, we will have time to grab what we've staged, get it in the car, and get out quickly.
Along those lines,
that's what we
Shane,
kind of.
I'll turn it over to you, Scott, in a second, but I was going to, along those lines, Shane, is that you should have a 30 seconds to go kit, like a 30-second, like if all you had was 30 seconds, what would you go? And then if all you had was 3 hours, what would you do? If all you had was, a day, what would you grab? So there's scenarios like that's part of running through those scenarios. If you only had 3 minutes, what would you grab? If you only had 3 hours, what would you grab?
Perfect.
Et cetera, et cetera. All right, Scott, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, that's the same thing, like modularize or stage or, time frame out what you're going to be able to take with you. Because the other thing is, if you have all day to prep, do you have enough room in the car to take all day to prep?
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to carry everything out? Like, we had fires in the city near here, probably 5-6 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, but people were loading the trailers up and last minute leaving Harriman. And it's well, the fire's right there, but we're getting out. And then well, we might not get out, but we got everything in the trailer, and the trailer might just go up in flames now. Be cognizant of the time frame you have and how many exits you have out of your neighborhoods. This jumps the curb of we're talking kits, and jumps into the valley of total family readiness planning. For a fire, this is what we deal with. For a wildfire, this is what we deal with. With an earthquake, this is what we deal with. And we'll do a whole series on those as well. But for that 30 seconds, this is really kind of where we're talking. Like, this is the sweet spot. If you go buy one of those garbage kits online and it doesn't suit you well and it falls apart or whatever, like, I don't want to have to say I told you so, but it's like, please be aware of what reality is in your life. And that measure of taking time now to prepare. What was that quote you used a couple weeks ago, Shane, about preparation versus dealing with it afterwards? It was like, yeah.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Is that the one? I think.
Yeah. Like, it's perfect. I mean, you don't have to have every single thing in your bag. Start with the basics, the most simplest things that you need. Like, you can go 3 days without brushing your teeth, right? If it's a matter of like, I just can't fit everything else in, fine, leave that out, right? If it's a matter of, not everybody needs a first aid kit if you're planning for a family, but like, we put all this stuff on the list so you have something to think about. One good trauma kit per family makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one water filter per family, one stove, those types of things. And I guarantee you, your wives and your daughters don't need to take their makeup or their hair dryers or any of that BS that takes them 2 hours. We'd be dead. If I had to wait for my wife to put on her makeup, we'd be burnt out. Our house would crumble down on us, those types of things. So yeah, absolutely, make priorities, make lists. Like you're saying, I think it's really great practice. I went through a period of time where I was making all different kinds of kits. Here's one. I tried to make a kit, what I could fit into this little thing here, right? And it was fun practice. I've actually, if you can see this thing, it just keeps disappearing. But I probably have $150 worth of stuff in this little tin here. So, and I mean, it's like you're saying, modules. This is my fire kit. It's just a little red bag. That's my fire kit. And I've got a water kit, and they're all modules that I can take from bag to bag. And I basically relate to this as getting ready to go on a backpacking trip or to go for a weekend or 3 or 4 days. Typically, when we do that, we practice. Okay, I'm going to see how it all fits in my bag, see what weight I'm at, and then carry it around to see if it's too heavy, see if I can add some weight. It all takes practice. And if you've backpacked before, you've done this before, it's not that difficult. It's maybe just changing up what you're taking. And then, like you're saying, skills and practice with what you're taking, because the more skills you have, most likely the less stuff you need to take. Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Like when you then take this list and you look at it in a shelter in place type scenario, then you want to add things like, instead of just like a water bottle per bag, right? Our home kits aren't backpacks. They're bins, plastic bins, right? And we've got, next to the plastic bins, we've got big water jugs. And we've also got a bucket with a poop lid on it and bags and sanitizers. Like and toilet paper. Like we've got those in a certain room in the house so that if we have to shelter in place for a long time and all the systems go down, we've got a place where we can relatively keep it warm without power. We've got blankets in there. We've got all the things in the checklists, but it's not portable, versus the portable list goes to the backpack stuff or the car kits or like those things. And so being aware of what's my family plan and what do I need? Like, funniest thing I've heard, a lot of people, when they talk about like, I've got a shelter in place and stuff, they never put a can opener where the canned food is. Like if they've got to stay in the basement and they're like, what if we get stuck down here? We don't have a can opener down here. Or like a cold storage room or like a bunker. Like it's that the pictures, you've probably all seen the meme. The Far Side, the guy and the lady in the bunker down there and all these cans of food and nukes are going off above. And she's like, where's the can opener? How many times have I told you to get a can opener? And he's just like, oops. Right. Well, the cool thing is with a can, like if you've got some semi-rough concrete, you can rub the can on that long enough that it'll pop open. Like you'll wear the metal off. It's not fast, but it can be done. So
just always carry one with you, right? So
there you go.
You always have
even better option. But it's like put those tools where it makes sense to have those tools. And so as good as our lists are, we're always going to recommend make a list that makes sense for you and for what you're going to face. Totally. So again, like
let's jump into the rest of that list then.
Okay. So like if you're sheltering in place, obviously like for me, my cooking methods change, right? I may no longer have access to my stove, but my stove's my primary. If my stove's no longer working, what's my secondary? Well, I've got an oven and I've got a sun oven. Okay, well, I've also got my barbecue outside, which is not the most efficient way to cook, right? But it's got a single burner on the side, which is more efficient. And so I could be that'll be boiling water to purify, and also making goulash and stews and soups like crazy, because those are easy to prepare.
And you know, also if you consider you know, what type of bag it is, like I call my bag most time it's just a go bag, right? And in particular it's a get home bag. So it has multiple purposes and I change modules out, but most of the time I just have just rations in there. Things I don't even have to cook because I'm going to be on the move. I'm heading home, right? I don't want to have time to light a fire. I got to be on the move. But you know, with the ability to, you know, boil some water, you know, those types of things, but to keep it really simple. So plan ahead. If you want to take freeze dried stuff, you want to eat well, get the Mountain House freeze dried, have a way to boil some water, right? And so that can be done very simply with a very portable stove and fuel tablets, or have a propane or a butane type stove. And there
have a fire. I was going to say, have a fire starter, have a kindling with a little like
absolutely
flint and steel. You can just grab some, twigs or some kindling on the side of the road, find a tree, pull some of the whatever leaves, and you just and then you got to practice that though. You got to practice starting a fire like that, because that's super simple, very light. You don't have to carry a stove, but you can create a little safe area. And then fire safety. You don't want to start a fire in thinking you're just going to cook your quick little boil your water, and before you know it, the tree next to you is on fire, and you're Moses in the burning bush. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to have,
or even worse, your carpet's on fire because you thought you could do this in the living room.
Yeah, exactly.
But, also consider, what if it's, it had just been raining or snowing and everything is wet, right? Are you going to carry fuel with you? So there's so many things to think about, especially when you've got kids with you and you've got to keep them safe and happy. And again, that's why my first go-to are my vehicles, right? To have everything already in there, especially if I'm going on a trip. I mean, I've got everything possible I could possibly have in those vehicles. But a few other things that, and like you say, some of those things take practice to know how to start a fire when things are wet, right? And having a lighter, and it's awfully nice to have a ferro rod, but why would you have a ferro rod if you can carry a lighter, right? It's much easier, but have redundant and backup. One is none, two is one. But also tinder, those types of things, like those Esbit cubes where you could cook directly just off the cube by lighting it in a small Esbit type stove. So so many different ways, and that takes practice. That takes a lot of thinking and packing your kit and then starting over again and changing it up. So this is not going to work, and it's really not as simple as going and buying one off the shelf. This takes practice and planning. Maybe you have a module where you pull out your bin, your camping bin, just got your stove and all your food in there already. That's what we do. I have a bin with my stove in there and some food, and I grab that and we're good to go. Literally 30 seconds, it's in the vehicle, along with the other things I just mentioned as well. But shelter, water, food, and those are the basic. And if that's all you have, you're going to be fine.
Let me ask you guys this: what are your like top 3 or 4 things that you say everyone needs to have in their shelter in place kit?
Shelter in place.
That's moving this into home. Like looking at it as a home scenario where you have to stay home. What are the top 4 or 5 things you think everyone should have, either as a family kit or whatever? What's most important to you in those scenarios?
Well, for me, it would be one to have, if the water is still working on your faucet, then you don't need it. But if it's not working, you need to have storage of water, because you can cook, you can't cook stuff without water. You can't bathe without water. You can't live without water. The other thing I would think of is if the electricity's out, you'll need light. So flashlights, lanterns, some way to keep the light on at night. And then lastly, our next would be heat. Some way to keep the house warm, because, we can always throw on more clothes and we can always have more blankets in our house, but sometimes we need to have maybe a portable heater or something else that, there's the buddy heater. I've got that. And that's a great propane heater, and it's rated for inside. You can use it inside, and it's safe, and it can radiate some heat. And if you're in a situation where you've got to bug in and it's cold, you can stay warm. most everything else, I'm just off the top of my head, almost everything else could be found in the house somewhere. You
Yeah.
should have a lot of that stuff or everything else. But do you guys have anything else to add to that?
Well, one thing that I really like having, provides a lot of comfort, is I have the Goal Zero Yetis,
Oh,
battery
yeah.
battery bank. It has inverter. The kids can come plug their phones into it. It has USB ports. We can plug some lights into it, and it's just a nice little thing to gather around when the power's out. Maybe the kids are a little scared or whatever, and then you got some normalcy with that. So, and
Great idea.
I've got a huge long list of other things. Obviously, when you're in the house, you're a lot better prepared. But like you're saying, you already got your shelter, need your water. It's really important to have at least 3 months worth of food on your shelves. That's something I always advise. Just canned goods, stuff that you eat every day. So you have some normalcy. Food's already there. Kids feel comfortable. They can have whatever food they want because we don't have to go to the store. We're good for hopefully 3 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
We run out of milk, run out of a few things like that. But again, some normalcy would just having and comfort of having full shelves where the kids go in and see, oh, there's nothing to eat. That's what I hear all the time. Oh, there's nothing good to eat. The shelves are full. There's no room for anything else on these shelves, but there's still nothing to eat. So,
and when they're left with no other option, there's plenty to eat.
Absolutely.
I would also add to this list, like a lot of people don't have some basic tools like a pry bar.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think everybody should have a big pry bar, crowbar, some type of, because sometimes, like especially in like an earthquake scenario, you may have to get one of those or use one of those to get out of your home. Your doors can get lodged shut just when the house creaks a little bit to the left or the right. Mm-hmm. The pressure on those doors can be so much that you can't open it. So something simple like that. Also, security, a sidearm, a taser if that makes you more comfortable, right? But also making sure, because you should at home, you've got gloves, you've got coats, you've got jackets, you've got all these other things like, and sanitation. You should have another way to go to the bathroom. If the plumbing goes out, you can't just keep using your toilet, because where's it going to go? It's not going to flush. No new water's coming in.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you should also have secondary methods of keeping people entertained, because they're going to get a lot more bored than they used to be. And they'll have to do the things that we did as kids to keep busy and to keep their minds entertained. Books, coloring books, playing board games. Like, remember to know where those things are so that the kids can be like, oh yeah, I'm used to this. And practice all this stuff. But again, go back, extra tools. Do I know where my water shutoff is? Do I know where my gas shutoff is? And do I know how to shut both of those off in an emergency?
And do you
because
have
if you have a gas
wrench?
leak, and is it zip locked to the gas meter outside?
Exactly. Yeah. Gas wrench, zip tied to the gas meter. Absolutely.
Do you know where your electrical panel is to turn that off if you have like an electrical fire keep starting?
And your outside main breaker as well. That's going to need to go off really quickly. But also, thanks for the reminder there, Scott. We live on a hill, so our toilet should work for a good amount of time, But one thing we have as part of our camping gear is a porta potty. What a perfect little device to throw in the vehicle and take with us, as part of our bug out planners, getting out of the home quickly with our 72-hour supplies, 96-hour supplies, but also perfect to use in the house, and then, I can dig a pit out back if I need to and dispose of it. But definitely gives some comfort of having the bathroom in the house, not having to go dig the trench out back.
And it makes more sense to try to keep things as similar to how they are now in those disasters, because it'll help alleviate a lot of the stresses for the family, right? Try to keep it as simple as possible and as similar as it currently is. So having a battery bank, that's great. Letting the kids still be able to use their tablets and other things. Internet may be gone, might be for a day, a week, or this could be the new normal. But making sure you have a plan in place, you know where things are, you stay organized, and you know what you need. Like if you're in a winter situation and the power goes out and it's more than 12 hours and you're getting into night, you're going to start getting to where your home is going to get to a freezing point. And if you don't shut the water off, you're going to have freezing pipe issues. Like you need to be prepared for those things. So that's why I brought up those other items, especially for a shelter-in situation, because a lot of people don't think about that. They just think, I got the food and water and I got the house as a shelter, so we're good. Go a few steps further and say, okay, what do we have to turn off? What if we have to turn these things off? What do we do?
Yeah, and
Because a buddy heater is not going to heat the whole home.
Room.
I know we're coming up against our time limit here at 45 minutes. Maybe we should just go quickly over a list of kits that everybody should consider. You know, I've got some things here that, and not necessarily talk about all the contents of the kits, but going to our site and going to actually preparedguy.com. I've got all kinds of kits that I've posted there over the years that you could go and search. But and I made a list as well of kits and actually some things that I've gotten recently. Suture kit, dental kit. This actually has ways to extract teeth. My wife's a little excited about that one. She loves.
We've got a couple of those.
Here's one.
We even have the staple kits for suturing.
Oh yeah, no, perfect. Even better than suturing. Yeah. Here's one. This is my comms kit. I got all my comms in this plastic ammo box. Right.
Give me an example of a comms, Shane. Give us an example of a comms.
Oh, comms, as in ham radio, two-way radios. I've got it over here. Weather radios. You've got the small. What do you call these things? Family. Yeah, the
channel.
FRS, and GMRS radios. I've got a world radio in here. You know, shortwave, long wave radios for listening, not for transmitting, but for listening. So that's kind of my comms. It's got batteries in there as well.
That's important if you're bugging in and it's it's like the whole community is out. You're going to need to have some news, some way to tap into the news, because there's ways that they can get stuff out on the airwaves. And so having a little radio, I can't remember the name. It's called NAI something. What are they called? The radios? It's escaping me right now, but there's a certain kind of weather radio that you can.
Oh, just get. the NOAA weather radios. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
And they pick up the broadcast of the emergencies when they start broadcasting that stuff to let you know and keep you abreast of what's going on.
Yeah. And I, as Scott mentioned, I like to keep these in modules. So if we need to get out quickly, I say, Austin, go grab the comms box, grab this box, everything's in a box so we can grab it fairly quickly. You don't have to gather it up, put it in a bag or put it in a box, save a lot of time that way. Also, something I want to point out, a few things, everyday carry. That's something that I think is also part of kits. So my first everyday carry bag is my business bag, right? It's a bag that I take to work, right? It's just a black business bag. But inside that, I have my other little modules of things I would use every day, little first aid kits, flashlights, compass, all those different types of things in there, other little modules. And then there's the gun bags, right? You can see this one. This is for my ARs. This has my magazine strapped in there. All I have to do is grab it and I'm ready to go. It's already set up. So that's what I'm talking about kits, modules, and all kinds of kits. And I've got even more written down here of the different kits that I think. Let me find my list here real quick. All right, let's see. I've got, of course, bug out, bug in, get home, go bags, inch bag. We haven't even talked about that, Scott. It's an inch. And, that's for me, my inch bag.
Wait. Inch is an acronym.
Yes.
I'm never coming home, right?
Correct.
So that's
that's
not just a bug out. That's a bug forever.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a strategic. And bug out, remind people, bugging out is when you have a strategic location you're going to, pre-planned, predetermined, and you have ownership or group ownership with others of that place, because A, you can't go into somebody else's space and expect to be taken care of. B, you can't go to things like the water treatment plant and expect to be able to get water, or somewhere else like that and be able to think you can use resources like the electric company. Because guess what? When something really bad happens, National Guard and other people are going to be coming to take that position. And if you're there, you're going to be looked at as possibly a hostile person trying to take over a resource that's used for all. So you have to have a plan in place. That's my disclaimer, reminder to everyone. Don't think I can bug out and just wander through the wilderness and be okay. There's some parts of the country where if you have the skills, you can live indefinitely off the land. However, if you don't have those skills, you're going to live 3 or 4 days max and die of exposure.
Absolutely. And there's a lot on the internet, a lot online about bug out bags. I think they're baloney. Unless you have, like you say, unless you have a place that's already stocked up and something happens, there's an EMP or something, the vehicles don't work, you got to get there on foot. Okay, then you can have your bug out bag, but you're getting somewhere that's already pre-planned, already pre-stocked. But inch bag, yes, is definitely end of world type of thing, right? Where you're going heavy. My inch bag is my truck, my trailer, my wife's truck, my wife's trailer, my daughter's car, another trailer. I mean, it's going heavy, right?
That's a really big bag.
That's a really, it's just a kit. Call it a
It's
kit.
crazy. Module. It's my 80-pound module.
Multiple modules. And then there's the EDC kits. You know, there's my man bag, my MERS, whatever you want to call it. Vehicle bags. We haven't got into vehicle bags, right? Recovery kits. I always have recovery kits in my off-road vehicles in particular.
What does that mean?
Recovery as in straps for pulling other vehicles out, pulling myself out, winch ropes, shackles, all different types of things that you might need to get your vehicle unstuck or someone else's vehicle unstuck.
So,
and that's something I always have.
So tell us what else. What else should be in a vehicle kit, Shane? Do you have tell us?
Jumper cables, flares, reflectors. Let's see, of course, tools, basic tools or specific tools, depending on your vehicle. I've got shovel. I've got at least a shovel. I've got tracks to put underneath my tires to get unstuck. I've got, let's see what else. I've got 5 gallons of water in there at all times.
We talked about it a little bit earlier.
Air compressors, fire extinguishers, all kinds of things.
We talked about it earlier. If you get stuck, pulled over, dead on this road, you got to be able to get home.
Exactly.
So that a vehicle kit could technically and quite honestly be your get home kit.
Absolutely.
You need to have good shoes. You need to have, if you don't have, let's say you're on the highway coming home from a work and you're in a business suit or something, you're going to want to have a change of clothes. You're going to have boots that can hike, not the loafers or the penny loafers or the business shoes. So some things like that to have in your car kit. I think I actually have, there's these ones you can buy, these emergency lights. They have magnets on them, so you can stick them on the side of your car, and they flash and they twirl and they spin and they do all kinds of different lighting techniques. So having those emergency lights is important too. And if you see the guys that are out on the road and they have the little triangles, the red triangle emergency triangles, having some of those in your car so that people don't they can see you easier with reflectors so that they don't crash into you.
At the very least, flares, right? We have flares, reflective vests. We have a small battery bank that's charged and that has a hand crank on it so we can recharge things if the car's dead, right? We also have headlamps, not flashlights, headlamps.
Keep your hands free.
Because anytime you've got a broken down car, you need your hands free. Why am I gonna, I've got a little grip on my phone that I could put it in my mouth and try to point it at the tire while I'm trying to change the tire. That's just ridiculous. It's not effective. So headlamps, and you can use these in any kits, but lanterns, headlamps, blankets, those are, I kind of look at the basics of things you need. A tourniquet or 10, right? A burn gel, tourniquets, wound packing materials, gauze, those things I think are the must-haves in your first aid kit, especially in a car.
Tire repair as well. You can get some pretty nice tire repair kits. You get a screw in there, you can pull the screw out, you can patch that, air it up with the little air compressor you should have with you, and you're on your way. And there's no emergency, right? That's you're prepared. There's no emergency. Yeah, and then I think last on the list, a little fun little activity is to get a little bag like this, and call this a little EDC kit. Put the things in there that you would miss, that you need. This is a little zipper pouch. You can get these on Amazon. You put multiple things in there, and this will fit. If you wear cargo pants, this will fit the pocket of a cargo pant. If not, maybe in your back pocket. If not, put it in your purse, right? Put it in your man bag, and that's a fun little exercise to practice.
And last but not least, and probably the most obvious because it's something we haven't actually specified, is having a really good knife, a pocket knife, or a.
It goes without saying. Yeah.
Yeah. A flip. Well, people who are listening to this are like, wait a minute, they never said knife. What does that mean?
Knife, or we talked about Swiss Army knife, like a multi-tool or knife. You should always have one of those in your car, in your bag, right? Wherever your kits are, you should have with you. If you can carry it on you, I always carry a knife. Better. Shane always carries a multi-tool. I've always got a multi-tool near me. I've got one in every vehicle. I've got one in my desk for work. But then also things like kid specific, we haven't really gotten into that, or wife specific. If you're on the side of the road and your wife's got to go to the bathroom, if you don't have one of the Jaycos or the urinary devices, where she can stand up and keep her pants on and relieve herself, you're going to be holding sheets up, trying to protect her or the kids on the side of the road where they have to pee if there's like no cover, right?
And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it's called Go Girl. It's one of the perfect opportunities. It's actually a thing that it's a funnel that the girls fit right to where they need to put it, and it funnels the urine right into where they need it to go.
Yeah,
kind of like what guys
stand
can
up
do.
and pee. It gives you total freedom. Other things like for the kids, like medications, even for the adult, like prescription stuff that you need, make sure you carry it with you. Because if your 1 hour trip turns into 10 hours and you have medications you have to take every 3, you need to have those things with you, especially if they're life-saving medications that you don't think you normally would need. Those should be in your kits that you can take in and out of your car or however you need to do it. But the kids stuff, like games and things to keep them entertained in the car while you're working on a tire, so that they're not climbing out of the car saying, "Hey, what's going on?" And then they get smacked by someone driving down the road.
Yeah.
Right. Safety measures.
Well, another thing I was going to mention is, I like to work with my hands, and I don't like to usually wear gloves because I like to have calluses. I like to have tough hands. But if you injure your hands in an emergency, it's going to be a hard day. I mean, it's going to affect a lot of things that you should be able to do if you have injured hands. So always have a good pair of leather gloves and use them so you don't hurt yourself in such a really critical situation or critical time.
Yeah. And even though we're not biologists, we recognize that women are different than men. And if you have a go bag or a stay home bag or commitment, you need to be, and you're a woman, you need to have a certain set of things in there. And one of those is things we just talked about with the Go Girls. And then another thing that not a lot of people worry about, and this is if you're going to be bugged out for a little while. If you can't see this is a menstrual cup. This is a menstrual cup for those times of the month where you need to have that taken care of. If you don't have, and this is washable and reusable. And it's a great tool for the ladies. If those that don't, younger girls, my daughters were, when they were younger, before they needed to worry about or could feel comfortable with menstrual cups, we had these pads that they would put in their underwear so that they could have those. And these pads are great for the younger girls for that type of thing. So girls have different, just trust me on
different
this.
needs.
Yeah.
So in other words,
women are different than men.
Yes. In other words, get them involved so they can tell you exactly what they need, what they will need when it hits the fan.
Yeah. Well, it's like my wife is like, she's going to know. Your wife, ladies, you know better than what your men know, right? You're going to know better what to get for your kids. You're going to know better what to get for yourselves. You know you're going to need your hygiene products. You know if you're going to be gone for a long time, you've got to make things change, right? The cup that you just showed, my wife, when we first got married and we started this journey together, and I'm like, hey, here's all my prep stuff, but now that I've got you, we got to look at your prep stuff, what we need to get for you. And she's like, okay, we're going to get the menstrual cups. And she's like, I'm going to use this time so I know how it works. And I'm like, way to go. Not an emergency. Get used to using what you have. Practice with the things you have. Just like practice how to use a knife safely so that you don't cut a thumb off in a disaster, or a finger, or like stab yourself in the ribs for some dumb reason because you're not cutting away and you're cutting towards yourself. Go through and practice these things. Practice the disasters. Practice using the tools as well. And it might be a tool that you're like, oh, this doesn't work for me. Get something else.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think maybe there's been some aversion to some of the 2-hour kits. I think most people think, they assume, I'm gonna have to walk. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to walk out of here. Well, you don't necessarily have to. Make your plans appropriately. Plan to use your vehicle and set it up so that you can be ready to evacuate in a moment's notice.
Yeah.
That make it as easy or whatever works best for you. If a backpack doesn't work, then do something else. Like Scott's saying, use bins. Those work great. They're great for organizing. Just keeping on a shelf, very organized, and keep them where you can access them quickly and easily. Slip them in your vehicle and you're off. And it can be very painless and easy to revisit every 6 months, to clear out the old stuff, put in new, make some changes, revise, realize what doesn't work, and make those adjustments.
Here's something else I kind of want to talk about in terms of kits is like one of the things I thought about is I have a family and there's 7 of us, 5 kids and my wife and I. And I thought, you know, more often than not, we're probably going to stay together. We'll probably be okay because we'll be together. So I can have a stove. My wife can have a cooking set, whatever. We kind of separated, each person have a little bit of something so that all of us together will have everything.
Mhm.
And then I realized, what if we get separated?
Mhm.
And what if something happens where my kid is, you know, I don't know, the ground opens up and I'm on one side and they're on the other side, you know.
Watching too many movies there, Paris.
Right. Yeah. I think I've seen The Croods too many times, I guess. So you realize that, wait a minute, I don't necessarily think that everybody should have everything, but I think that you should be aware of what would you do if you got separated, and at least have some of the basics so that they can make up or kind of improvise if they needed to. So it's important to remember that you might say, well, this guy you carry this, you carry that, you carry this. Well, if you get separated, now somebody else has the thing you thought you were going to have, and you don't have it now.
Like a flashlight. Everybody should have a quality flashlight. It's not like, oh, one person carries the flashlight. No, that's where you get into redundancy, which really provides a lot of assurances, having especially light at night. You know, you've got to have more than one flashlight.
This is my everyday carry pen. Everyone should always have a pen, but this is also my everyday carry light. Can't see very well how bright it is, but this is awesome. But then I also have my bag light. That thing is bright, right? But it also, this is so cool.
You guys
Boom!
are.
I've got all this cool stuff.
Lights.
Like you need to have some redundancies. You need to know who has what, right? So that you're better prepared. And I just messed up my camera. Sweet. I look like Gray Man now.
You do.
But it's
shine the light on yourself.
Makes the most sense.
There you go. There you go.
Get what makes the most sense for you, and keep track of who has what.
Another
and if
thing
something doesn't work for you, don't carry it. If something works better for you, get that. You know, and my plan doesn't work for everybody. Paris's plan doesn't work for everybody. Shane's plan works for everybody. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't work for everybody. We have to find what works for us, right? And you know, I'm always going to have maps in home and in my car, paper maps, because I don't know when my phone's going to break down, right? We need to think about those things that we are dependent on. Go look at the list that we put on the website, because we tried to make some of them simple and basic, and others are like super all-inclusive. Like you go on a cruise and they give you the food and everything else all for one price. Like there's crazy lists. I've got all kinds of stuff, you know, but you can look at it and say, okay, well, this makes sense for us, or this doesn't make sense for us, or, well, maybe that's a little outdated. That's fine. Use it as a starting point or jumping off point. Make your own list. If I get everybody make their own list for their own stuff, for their own disasters, you are 1,000 times better prepared than the next guy.
About 80% of the stuff you'll need is pretty generic. Everybody needs it, but there's that 20% that's just specific to you. I mean, we all need a flashlight. We all need a knife. We all maybe need a sewing kit, whatever, you know, just have those things in your bags. There's some things that are generic and there's some things that are specific, and just know which is which and what's what. And so, I mean, my kids love card games. So in their kit, when we bug out, they got little Go Fish and Old Maid, and they got, you know, playing cards, so we can do some, you know, gambling. I mean, so we can do some, you know, play some games when we're.
Is that how you make critical decisions there, Paris? Is using the card. So much for sticking to 45 minutes, right, guys?
Dude, we can't do it.
You know,
it's not doable. We can't.
We tried to prepare for that, but our plan has gone over it yet again. But you know what? Every minute we can get with you guys, and for those listening in, you know, we appreciate you sticking around. Please let us know if there's things that you're like, hey, I really need to know this. Jump in our groups, you know, let us know, communicate with us. All of our socials are listed on our website. You can also reach us, you know, in our Facebook groups. If you're not on Facebook, jump on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram, jump on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, jump on Gab. If you're not on Gab, you know, we're in so many different places. TikTok, like there, right now, we're communicate with us wherever you want to be.
Yeah. Right now we're mostly in the Facebook group doing a lot of communicating, a lot of people there. There's a lot of there's a lot of people having conversations in that group, which is awesome. And, you know, we did start up a Discord server, and that will come as we get a little more information. We'll be giving that out to folks so that we just have one place where we can all go, or as many of us as possible can go, and just keep that communication going. Because, you know, if you have a certain specific situation or scenario that you want us to say, hey, what do I do about this? This is my situation. What do you think? We're more than happy to help, but in an hour show, we can't run through every scenario that could ever think of in just that, you know, 45, 60 minute time frame. So we hope we've given you some value. We hope we've given you a starting point, a launching point. Any last or final words from you guys before we just let it rip?
Well, I was just thinking, let's make this week a kit week for our social media posts, right? Facebook, whatever. Let's post kits. Let's have some discussions of what get some good ideas and good input of what we're missing out, what we should have in our kits.
That'd be a good idea. So if you have if you heard this, if you listened the whole way and you're still with us and you have any ideas that we didn't mention, any things that we didn't say that you think would be valuable to have the community, what are your experiences with your kits? Did you guys buy a kit off the shelf and realize this is exactly what we've been talking about, and then you went out and bought your own stuff? What experiences do you have that can help others with their learning curves? We'd love to hear it. We'd love to know more about it so that we can share it. But one last time, just before we end here, Scott already said it. Go to our socials, join us there, subscribe, like, join, whatever. Also, just lastly, really fast, Be Prepared Expo, April 22nd, 23rd, Friday, the 22nd from 12 to 6. And Saturday, the 23rd from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's going to be giveaways every hour on the hour. There's going to be booths. There's going to be education. There's going to be tools, gears, people, community. There's going to be everything you want to know about how to be prepared. And I'm pretty excited. Chris is Turpin, who's the CEO, who's putting it on. We had him on our podcast. We did an interview with him a couple of weeks ago. So check that one out. If you want to go back and listen to that, it's on our YouTube and on our podcasts. So we'd love to see you there. We'd love to meet you, shake your hand, give you a hug, whatever you feel good about. And so with that, have a fantastic week. Make sure that you stay prepared. Make sure that you get prepared, stay prepared, and you always have a ready mind. Have a great week, guys. Take care. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Yeah.